Chapter 1, Mr. Prescott, I've made up my mind. I'm willing to divorce my husband and marry you to be your wife and Luna's mother. Inside the villa, Victoria Rivers took out a business card and dialed the number on it. As the words left her mouth, a man's deep, magnetic voice came through the line. I remember the first time I made this request. You refused to leave your husband and son no matter what. Victoria gave a bitter smile. I was too stubborn before, but I see things clearly now. Mr. Prescott, it will take a month for my divorce to be finalized. As soon as the paperwork is done, I'll be there. The man asked gently, will the divorce be difficult? Please don't hesitate to ask if you need anything. She shook her head on her end of the line. Divorcing Sincere Hargrave was probably the easiest thing she had done in all her years of marriage. After all, he had never loved her, nor did he care about her in the slightest. Thank you, Mr. Prescott, but I can handle it myself. Just as she hung up, the sound of footsteps echoed from the staircase. Sincere was coming down with their son, Finn Hargrave. The handsome faces of the father and son, one large and one small, were both grim. Sincere's tone was icy. Didn't I tell you? Don't make any noise when I'm in a meeting. Finn shot her a resentful look. Mom, who were you talking to? You were so loud I couldn't even focus on my book. This time, she didn't apologize to them as she usually would, nor did she offer an explanation. She simply picked up 2 documents she had prepared earlier from the coffee table and handed them over. There are 2 documents here that you both need to sign. One is... Her words were cut off by the ringing of Sincere's phone. It was the ringtone reserved exclusively for Ivy Bellamy. So even without hearing the voice on the other end, she knew exactly who was calling. Besides, only a call from Ivy could bring such a gentle expression to his face. All right, I'm on my way. Hearing him hang up, Finn looked at him with delight. Dad, is that Auntie Ivy? I want to go see her with you. Sincere nodded without a word, taking his son's hand and heading for the door. Seeing the father and son so determined to leave, she held out the documents once more. You need to sign this, Sincere frowned slightly. What is it now? Some unimportant papers. Buying a house or a car? You don't need to come to me for everything. Just sign for me from now on. With that, he led his son out the door without a backward glance. Watching their retreating figures, she let out a desolate laugh, repeating the word unimportant in her mind. What was truly unimportant in their eyes? The documents or her? Because she was unimportant to them, any papers she presented were also deemed unimportant. Unfortunately, the 2 documents she offered this time were a divorce agreement and a consent form for the child to voluntarily live with the father. Perhaps this was what they had always wanted. After all, her relationship with Sincere had never been consensual on his part. Years ago, she was a student sponsored by the Hargrave family. It was love at first sight the moment she laid eyes on the dazzling Sincere Hargrave. But she knew a relationship between them was impossible, so she never dared to hope for anything. Throughout her university years, she was merely a spectator, silently watching his tumultuous on-again, off-again romance with Ivy Bellamy. He was a man of high standing, she a blessed belle, while Victoria was just a bystander, an insignificant extra in their love story. It wasn't until Ivy broke up with Sincere and left the country that he, in a drunken stupor, mistook her for Ivy, and they had a reckless night together. That one accident led to her pregnancy, and he was forced to marry her. He had been cold to her all these years, not just because he didn't love her, but because he harbored a suspicion that she had intentionally schemed to make him mistake her identity that night. 10 months later, she gave birth to their son, Finn Hargrave. To her dismay, this precious little lord was just as cold to her as his father. Because she loved them so deeply, she had forced herself to endure their coldness over the years, diligently playing the part of Sincere's wife and tirelessly serving as Finn's mother. But she never imagined their indifference could reach such a degree. So indifferent that when her mother passed away, one claimed to be busy with work and the other with school. Neither father nor son was willing to accompany her to the funeral. Instead, they went to the airport to pick up Ivy, who had just returned to the country. What was even more heartbreaking was that, when she returned after the funeral, she discovered they had cooked the last bag of handmade wontons her mother had ever made for her, all because Ivy mentioned she was craving them. They knew her mother had made them for her. They knew that after this, she would no longer have a mother. That was the last time in her life she would ever get to eat her mother's wontons. Yet, for Ivy, they completely disregarded her feelings. That day, clutching the empty bag, she cried until her heart broke. The coldness of the father and son was like a bucket of icy water, extinguishing the flames of love in her heart. Her heart died completely. She wasn't without a place to go if she left them. 6 months ago, she had met Julian Prescott by a twist of fate. His niece had gotten lost, and Victoria had found her. She spent the entire night with the child, searching for her family, until she finally met him. The moment she saw Julian, she knew he was a man of distinguished background. He was not only handsome and gentlemanly, but also possessed an outstanding air. After taking the child, he immediately thanked her and made a request. It was then she learned that the little girl was his sister's child. His sister had passed away 5 years ago, and he had been raising the child ever since. The girl had autism and was extremely wary of strangers. This was the first time he had seen her so attached to someone, which was why he hoped Victoria would marry him and become the child's mother. Although Victoria pitied the sweet, beautiful child for losing her mother at such a young age and suffering from autism, she had refused. She had a husband and a child, and she believed they couldn't live without her. But now it was clear that was all her own delusion. There was no reason for her to stay. Her thoughts returned to the present. She looked at the documents on the table and let out a faint laugh. Since they wanted her to sign on their behalf, so be it, she uncapped a pen and on those 2 documents solemnly signed their names. From this day forward, she was done with this father and son. Chapter 2, after signing the papers, she placed both documents in the study. All she had to do now was wait for the 1-month cool-off period to pass, and she would be free of them forever. Sincere and Finn didn't come home that night, nor did they call her. In the past, she would have been sleepless with worry, but now she no longer cared. She went through the house, clearing out and throwing away anything that belonged to her. After she was gone, there would be no trace of Victoria Rivers left in this home. She was halfway through her clean-out when Sincere and Finn returned, with Ivy Bellamy in tow. Seeing her throwing things away, Finn frowned, looking like a miniature adult. "What are you throwing out?" Victoria replied casually. "Just some useless junk." No one thought much of it until Sincere, as if struck by a sudden thought, paled and rushed to the bedroom. A moment later, he stormed out, his face a mask of pure fury. "Where are the things from the drawer?" She was confused. "I didn't touch your things." Over the years, he had made his boundaries crystal clear. She was not allowed to touch his belongings, so why would she ever dare to? Sincere's brows furrowed deeply, his cold gaze sharp enough to cut. "If you didn't touch them, why are the love letters missing from the drawer?" His voice was utterly frigid. Though he had always been distant, he had rarely shown such anger. Victoria had never seen him so out of control and was momentarily at a loss for words. Behind her, a surprised Ivy stepped forward. "What love letters? Are you talking about the ones we wrote to each other when we were together? Sincere, you still kept them." Sincere didn't answer, striding to the trash can and dumping its contents onto the floor. He was a neat freak who would wash his hands for ages if he got so much as a speck of dust on them. Yet now, he was crouched on the floor, heedless of the filth, sifting through the garbage piece by piece. After a long search, he finally pulled out a thick stack of letters from beneath the trash. Holding the letters, he walked coldly to Victoria and demanded, "And you said you didn't touch them?" Staring into his furious eyes, Victoria felt a sharp pain in her heart. She truly hadn't touched his things and had no idea how those letters ended up in the trash. Finn, seeing the situation, offered no help. Instead, he chided her, "Mom, don't you understand the concept of privacy? And you lied about it after throwing them away. I'm ashamed to have a mother like you." Before she could speak, Ivy cut in. "Perhaps Miss Rivers is still upset about the past between Sincere and me. There's really no need. You are Mrs. Hargrave now, so why cling to the past? Jealousy blinds people, Miss Rivers. You shouldn't set a bad example for Finn." She was speechless, unable to defend herself. She wanted to explain, but Sincere was no longer willing to listen. He forcefully pushed her out the door, his voice as cold as ice. "Stand outside for the day. You can come back in when you've admitted you were wrong." The door slammed shut. She stood outside the villa, looking through the massive floor-to-ceiling windows at the happy scene inside. When he was with Ivy, Sincere's face held a tenderness she had never seen before. And Finn, for once, showed the innocence of a child, nestled in Ivy's arms, happily letting her feed him fruit. Whenever she gave him fruit, it had to be washed, cut, arranged on a plate with a fork before he would even touch it. He always said her hands were dirty and never let her feed him. At that moment, the people inside looked more like a family of 3, while she was merely an outsider. She found it laughable. For years, she had given her heart and soul to these two, and they had never appreciated it. Ivy had only just returned, yet they showered her with their utmost kindness and gentleness. As if taking pity on her, the sky began to weep. The late autumn air was heavy with a deep chill as a torrential downpour began. Standing in the rain, she felt her body being submerged in ice water, shivering uncontrollably. As the night grew darker, the lights in the house went out one by one, and her vision began to blur. When the last light in Sincere's room was extinguished, she could no longer hold on and collapsed, unconscious. Chapter 3, when she woke up, she was back in her room. The family's private physician, Dr. Evans, was speaking with Sincere. Mr. Hargrave, Mrs. Hargrave suffered from complications during a difficult birth with severe hemorrhaging when she had the young master. These lingering issues mean that even a cool breeze can make her feel unwell, let alone being caught in the rain. When I examined her just now, it seems she hasn't been taking proper care of herself. She really needs to pay more attention to her health. There was not a trace of sympathy on Sincere's face. He just said coldly, "I see. It won't happen again." After the doctor left, he returned to her bedside. Seeing that she was awake, his tone remained detached. "Mrs. Gable came to me a moment ago. She said she accidentally threw away the letters. I misunderstood you." Even in apology, his voice held no remorse. He had been like this for years. She was used to it, yet she couldn't stop her eyes from welling up with sorrow. Just then, the door was pushed open, and Finn peeked his head in. "Mom, since you're awake, hurry up and make dinner. Dad and I don't like the food the housekeeper makes. And Auntie Ivy wants to try your cooking too." "Oh, right, Auntie Ivy is allergic to seafood, so make sure you don't cook any." Victoria hadn't realized her own precious little lord could be so considerate, knowing even what Ivy was allergic to. What about her? What did she like to eat, and what did she dislike? He probably had no idea. She said nothing, simply got out of bed and went to the kitchen to start cooking. An hour later, she placed all the prepared dishes on the table. Ivy glanced at the spread and was full of praise. "Miss Rivers's cooking is truly excellent, much better than my own housekeeper's." Sincere and Finn just nodded gently, completely unfazed by Ivy's backhanded compliment. But when the father and son saw the dishes, their expressions suddenly changed, turning quite ugly. Sincere said coldly, "Why did you make so much soup? You know I never drink it." Finn threw down his chopsticks to express his displeasure. "Exactly, Mom knows I like spicy food, but everything today is so bland I'm not eating this." She remained silent, but in her heart, she answered each of them. Sincere didn't like soup, but Julian did. Finn loved spicy food, but Luna preferred mild flavors. From now on, her cooking would no longer cater to their tastes. After all, she would soon be someone else's wife, someone else's mother. Seeing her silence, Sincere assumed she was still angry about last night's misunderstanding and raised an eyebrow in annoyance. "Are you still angry because I misunderstood you? Victoria, I don't remember you being the type to throw a tantrum." She let out an almost inaudible sigh, finding it amusing. What kind of person did he think she was? Obedient, gentle, someone who did whatever he said or did without question. Yes, that's how she had been with him and Finn all these years. Like a servant, she cooked for them every day, prepared their clothes, and tried every trick in the book to get them to eat a little more. When they were unhappy, she would find ways to cheer them up. No matter how cold and cruel they were to her, a simple wave of their hand was enough for her to swallow her pain, wipe her tears, and greet them with a smile. But she was sick and tired of this life. She didn't want to live it anymore. As the 4 of them stood in a stalemate, Ivy stepped in to play the peacemaker. All right, Sincere, Finn, if you don't want to eat these dishes, we can just go out." With that, she started to herd them out the door. Victoria didn't want to go, but Ivy insisted, claiming that her refusal meant she was still angry and forcibly dragged her along. They arrived at a restaurant that was hosting an event. There was a piano on a stage. Whoever played a piece that received the most votes from the audience would win the first prize. The first prize was a necklace. It wasn't particularly expensive, but the design was quite exquisite. Ivy looked at the necklace and commented casually, "That style is very beautiful." Finn immediately volunteered. "Auntie Ivy, do you like that necklace? I'll go win it for you." Finn had been learning piano since he was a child and was a talented pianist. He rarely played in front of others. Even when Victoria wanted to hear him play, she had to hide outside the piano room, and he would get angry if he found out. But now, for Ivy, he confidently walked onto the stage and performed a highly difficult rendition of Pachelbel's canon. When the music stopped, the room erupted in thunderous applause. Finn had truly stunned the audience. The host came on stage, first praising his musical talent, then asking, "Little friend, where are your mom and dad?" Everyone wants to see what kind of outstanding parents could raise such a remarkable child, don't you all agree? Yes, amid the applause, Finn smiled confidently and without hesitation pointed his finger at Sincere. "That is my father." All eyes turned to Sincere, and a wave of admiration swept through the crowd. With such a distinguished man, it was no wonder he had such an exceptional child. Now, the crowd was even more curious about the child's mother. Then, Finn's gaze slowly fell upon Victoria. After a moment's hesitation, he turned his head and pointed his finger at Ivy. "And this is my mother." Chapter 4. The crowd gasped in amazement, the applause and cheers deafening. What a perfect couple, the whole family is stunning. No wonder they have such a talented child. The host invited the family of 3 on stage for a photo. Ivy, blushing shyly, joined them. From her seat, Victoria watched the 3 of them posing for the picture, a self-deprecating smile on her face. She joined the crowd's cheers and clapped along. When Finn came down from the stage, he was surprised to see her clapping and for once took the initiative to explain. "I know you don't like being on stage, that's why I pointed to Auntie Ivy." Victoria's expression remained placid, as if the whole affair had nothing to do with her. "Point to whoever you want." After dinner, Sincere had to leave for an urgent matter at the office. She had planned to take Finn home, but he insisted on going out to play with Ivy. Victoria didn't stop him. After a few words of caution, she drove home alone. She was only halfway there when she received a call from Ivy, who told her that Finn had been in a car accident. She turned the car around and sped to the hospital. Rushing to the emergency room, she saw Ivy sitting on a bench in the hallway, playing on her phone. When Ivy saw her, she quickly put her phone away. Victoria ran up to her. "What happened?" Ivy glanced at the emergency room and stammered, "I was driving and got an important call, so I got distracted. I accidentally hit the gas instead of the brake." Victoria's face went pale with anger. "Then how come you're completely fine?" Ivy bit her lip. "I forgot to buckle Finn's seatbelt when he got in the car." Victoria was about to scold Ivy for being so irresponsible when Sincere, having received the news, rushed over. Victoria Rivers, the moment he saw her, he didn't even ask what happened and immediately started blaming her. "What kind of mother are you? You're perfectly fine, but our son is seriously injured," and in the emergency room, she had to suppress her fury and explain, "Finn wasn't with me when the accident happened. He wanted to go out with Ivy, so he was in her car." To her shock, Ivy, who had been stammering just moments before, instantly changed her story. "Miss Rivers, how can you just push the blame onto me? You were the one taking him home. What does it have to do with me? Even if you want to evade responsibility, you shouldn't slander me like that." She was stunned by the speed at which Ivy's expression changed. Her mind went blank, and for a moment, she didn't know how to respond. But she didn't need to. Sincere, without a moment's hesitation, chose to side with Ivy. Upon hearing that she had not only let Finn get hurt, but also tried to blame Ivy, his eyes turned red with a fury that seemed ready to erupt. "Victoria, you've gone too far." Just then, the doors to the emergency room opened, and doctors and nurses wheeled Finn out. Everyone rushed toward him. After confirming that Finn's injuries weren't life-threatening, Sincere began to question him about what really happened. "Finn, tell me, whose car were you in when the accident happened?" Ivy's face paled, her hands clenching into tight fists inside her sleeves. There was a moment of silence. Then, Finn reached out with his left hand and gently squeezed Ivy's wrist, as if to reassure her. Then, with his right hand, he pointed coldly at Victoria. "It was Mom." Chapter 5. Boom! It was as if a thunderclap had exploded in her ears. Victoria's face turned ashen. She knew Finn didn't like her, but she never imagined he would lie and frame her just to protect Ivy. She watched in disbelief as he pointed at her, shifting all the blame onto her shoulders. It was Mom who was on the phone while driving. She didn't buckle my seatbelt, and when the crash happened, she didn't protect me. That's why I got hurt. Victoria rushed forward in disbelief. Say it again, Finn, say it clearly. Finn pushed her away, annoyed. That's the truth. It was your fault. You can make me say it 10 times, and it will still be the same. Hearing him defend her so staunchly, Ivy let out a sigh of relief. Miss Rivers, Finn has made it perfectly clear. Are you still trying to shift the blame to me? You're his mother. He has no reason to side with me. Are you trying to say that a child would lie? Once Sincere was certain that Ivy was not the one who had harmed Finn, he reprimanded Victoria without restraint. Enough, Victoria. What kind of mother are you? I always thought you were just clueless, but I never imagined your character was so despicable. Since you value yourself more than your own child, why did you scheme to give birth to him in the first place? Listening to their accusations, and looking at her son, who was now feigning sleep with his head buried in the blanket, Victoria felt a profound sense of powerlessness wash over her. In all these years, if she had, for even a single moment, valued herself more than this father and son, she wouldn't be feeling so heartbroken and wronged right now. It was because she cared too much, because she had indulged them too much, that she was now facing such humiliation. She couldn't take it anymore. She looked up at Sincere, finally understanding the meaning of looking at someone you once loved, only to find nothing but disappointment. Sincere, I'm the one who should be saying enough. For all these years, I was the one who nearly bled to death giving birth to him. I was the one who stayed up all night with him when he had a high fever. I was the one who taught him to speak, fed him his meals, and chronicled his growth. I can say with a clear conscience that I have never wronged Finn, and I have certainly never wronged you. What right do you have to accuse me? After venting her fury, she didn't spare them another glance. She turned and walked away without hesitation. Behind her, Sincere stood stunned. He had never seen this side of her. She had always been submissive, docile. Whatever he said, she did. Even when wronged, she never defended herself. Why was she reacting like this today? In the days that followed, Victoria didn't visit Finn in the hospital, nor did she even call him. But she could still keep up with his news because Ivy frequently posted photos of him on her social media feed. Some were drawings he made for her, others were of her, and Sincere reading him stories. Every single photo screamed a family of 3. Sincere's friends in their social circle all liked and commented on the posts. Such a happy family. Some who didn't know the situation commented directly. What a handsome husband and son, wishing you lasting happiness. Ivy didn't correct them, tacitly accepting everyone's assumptions. The most ironic part was that, under this post, Sincere and Finn had each left a like. Chapter 6. On the day Finn was discharged from the hospital, Victoria didn't go to pick him up. She had made up her mind. For the remaining days, she would no longer try to please them, nor would she invest any more emotion in them. All she had to do was wait for the time to pass, then walk away with her divorce certificate. There was nothing left in this home for her to hold on to. But that day, Finn called her. Why didn't you come to the hospital to get me? She found it laughable. Don't you have your beloved Auntie Ivy to keep you company? I'm not a good mother. I can't take care of you. Finn's tone was unhappy. Are you still angry about what happened? I only said that because Dad was really mad. Auntie Ivy is timid and gets scared easily, so I had to protect her. You endured a difficult birth and nearly bled to death for me. What's a small misunderstanding like this in comparison? She never thought the most hurtful words would come from her own son's mouth. When she was pregnant with Finn, she had suffered terribly with morning sickness. Fearing the medication would harm the fetus, she endured it without taking anything until she was vomiting blood. After his difficult birth, he refused to drink formula. Still weak, she ignored her own health to breastfeed him. The very fact that he knew how hard his birth was for her should have made him cherish his mother more, shouldn't it? How could he turn the pain she had endured into a knife to stab her with again? Victoria laughed, and tears streamed down her face. Unwilling to say another word to her son, she hung up the phone. Perhaps because she had never refused her son's requests before, Finn began calling her relentlessly. Victoria, driven to her wits' end, finally blocked his number to get some peace. She thought her world would finally be quiet, but then Sincere's assistant, Mr. Adams, started calling. "Ma'am, Mr. Hargrave's stomach condition is acting up. The pain is severe. Could you please make him some of that stomach-soothing soup he likes and bring it over?" Because Sincere had always treated her with cold indifference, his assistant showed her no respect either, his tone commanding and arrogant. In the past, she would have rushed to prepare it upon receiving such a call, terrified his pain would worsen. Now, looking out at the pouring rain, her eyes held nothing but annoyance. "No, I won't. And I won't be bringing it ever again. Don't call me again." With that, she hung up before the other party could even react. To prevent him from calling back, she simply turned off her phone. Finally, she could get a peaceful night's sleep. In the middle of the night, she was fast asleep when someone roughly shook her awake. She opened her eyes to see Sincere sitting by her bed, his face a dark mask, staring coldly at her. "You were actually sleeping. Don't you know my stomach hurts? How could you possibly sleep?" They had slept in separate rooms ever since Finn was born. He rarely set foot in her room, yet here he was today. Victoria rubbed her eyes and looked back at him, unperturbed. "I know. If your stomach hurts, shouldn't you just take some medicine?" Chapter 7. This was the first time she had ever seen a look of shock on Sincere's face. Normally, no matter what happened, he was always impassive. She knew why he was reacting this way. In the past, she had been more anxious about his health than anyone. The moment she knew he was unwell, she would rush to prepare medicine and massage him, staying by his side all night. Now her coldness mirrored the way he had always treated her. She had endured it for years without complaint, yet he couldn't stand it for a single instance. Sincere pressed his temples in frustration and asked, "Are you still angry about what happened before? It was you who failed to look after Finn, and I didn't even hold it against you. What more do you want?" He spoke as if his restraint was a great act of charity, as if she should be grateful and beg for his forgiveness. But this time, she clearly wasn't going to be the same as before. She just looked at him calmly, as if he were the one being unreasonable. "Think whatever you want." Sincere stared at her in disbelief, his expression growing darker. Finally, he stood up in a rage and stormed out. They had parted on bad terms, but Victoria paid it no mind. Winter was approaching, and she was busy knitting scarves and sweaters for Julian and Luna. Though she could buy these things, something handmade always felt warmer. Besides, she embroidered a small animal on each scarf, which Luna absolutely adored. Hearing that Julian had trouble sleeping and often suffered from insomnia, she did some research online, bought some traditional medicinal herbs from a pharmacy, and made a scented sachet. Placing the sachet by the pillow at night was said to aid sleep. She had tried it herself, and it was quite effective. While she was busy with these little projects, Sincere returned home with Finn. Seeing her absorbed in her work, the father and son assumed the items were apology gifts for them, and their expressions softened considerably. Sincere, for once, took the initiative to speak to her. "Now that you know you were wrong, don't be so childish in the future." Whenever they had a disagreement in the past, it was always Victoria who made the first move to reconcile. He assumed this time would be no different. But now, she couldn't be bothered to explain. Seeing her silence, Sincere spoke again. "Tomorrow is Ivy's birthday. I'm hosting a party for her at the Nocturne. You should get ready too, dress formally." She paused her work and looked up at them. "Tomorrow?" Sincere nodded lightly. "What's wrong?" Finn chimed in. "What's wrong with tomorrow? Do you have something else on?" "You have to cancel it if you do. Auntie Ivy's birthday party is the most important thing." Victoria said nothing, just pulled her lips into a thin line and nodded. The next day, the three of them attended Ivy's birthday party together. As she had expected, the party was incredibly lavish. The entire hall was filled with pink tulips, and a 2-story castle cake was a breathtaking sight. To give Ivy face, all the prestigious families in the city were in attendance. She heard it was all Sincere's doing. The decorative paintings at the party were even personally painted by Finn for Ivy. The father and son had truly put their hearts into her birthday. Chapter 8, the climax of the party, was the gift giving for the guest of honor. Some gave Ivy a famous painting, others custom-made cosmetics, and one even gifted her an autographed photo of her favorite celebrity. Everyone had put in a lot of thought, but their gifts paled in comparison to what Sincere and Finn had prepared. The moment the two of them took the stage, they captured everyone's attention. Sincere's gift to Ivy was a diamond necklace worth over $100 million, once worn by Princess Diana, with an immeasurable collector's value. It was said that countless socialites and heiresses had tried and failed to acquire it, but Ivy had merely mentioned wanting it, and he had presented it to her. Finn's gift to Ivy was a manor. Dressed in a black tuxedo, he then took to the stage and played her favorite piano piece for her. Though young, he had perfectly inherited all of Sincere's best features. The moment he appeared, the audience couldn't help but gasp in admiration. After his performance, Sincere ordered a multi-million-dollar fireworks display to be set off outside. The brilliant fireworks lit up the sky, bright enough to illuminate the entire city of Northwood. Amid a chorus of envious sighs, everyone raised their glasses, led by him, to wish Ivy a happy birthday. Witnessing such a scene, even the high society ladies, accustomed to grand events, couldn't help but gather and whisper among themselves. "This Ivy Bellamy is so lucky. How did she get Mr. Hargrave and his son to be so devoted to her?" "I know, right? They say Mr. Hargrave is like a flower on a high peak, untouchable by women, but whenever he looks at her, the love in his eyes is overflowing. And don't even get me started on the young Mr. Hargrave. He might be young, but he's incredibly proud. Very few people can catch his eye, yet he treats Ivy as well as if she were his own mother." "Stop talking. He doesn't even treat his own mother this well." The group glanced around and lowered their voices even further. Look at them, making such a big deal out of another woman's birthday. It's obvious they have no respect for the actual wife. Exactly. What woman could stand her husband and son treating another woman better than her? It's really pathetic. If it were me, I couldn't take this humiliation. Victoria sat in a corner, overhearing every word of their discussion. She listened calmly, as if the subject of their conversation had nothing to do with her. When it was time to blow out the candles and make a wish, all eyes were on Ivy, who was being celebrated like a queen. Standing in front of the cake, she suddenly waved to Victoria. "Miss Rivers, today is your birthday too. Come over and make a wish with me." Hearing Ivy's words, Sincere and Finn's expressions changed instantly. They exchanged a look and then turned to Victoria in surprise. "Today is your birthday too. Why didn't you say so?" She smiled faintly. "What good would it have done?" The father and son fell silent, unable to utter a word. They knew better than anyone that even if they had known their birthdays were on the same day, they would not have abandoned Ivy to celebrate with her. So, saying it or not truly made no difference, except to add to her own embarrassment. Victoria ignored them and, for the first time, made a wish in front of everyone. Ivy, ever the busybody, asked, "What did you wish for, Miss Rivers?" She smiled. "My wish is to completely get rid of two things and from now on, have nothing more to do with them." Chapter 9, Ivy was stunned by her response. It took her a moment to reply, "Getting rid of things isn't much of a wish. You should make another one." But Victoria just shook her head firmly. "No need, that is my greatest wish." After the party, the group headed home. Since they had all been drinking, Ivy also got into Sincere's car. The driver was to drop her off first before returning to the Hargrave residence. The car sped along the elevated highway, and Victoria sat alone by the window. Finn was still showing Ivy the photos the photographer had taken of them at the party, a perfect picture of a doting mother and son. The cold wind gave Victoria a slight headache. She closed the window and was about to doze off when the car suddenly screeched to a halt. In the next instant, a large truck came hurtling toward her side of the car. In that critical moment, out of the corner of her eye, she saw Sincere and Finn unhesitatingly shield Ivy with their bodies. A deafening bang drowned out all other sounds in the world, and she lost consciousness. When she came to, she was in the hospital. Fortunately, the airbag had saved her. Otherwise, she probably wouldn't be lying here now. The car had been struck on her side, so apart from her, no one else was injured. She opened her eyes and felt as if her entire body was about to fall apart. Sincere and Finn were sitting beside her, but their eyes were glued to their phones. It was only when a soft gasp of pain escaped her lips that they finally realized she was awake. They came closer, and Finn spoke first. "Since you're awake, you must be fine. We'll be leaving then. Auntie Ivy was really frightened by the accident, so we're going to take her abroad for a few days to relax. Dad has already bought the tickets. We were just waiting for you to wake up." Sincere stood up, his tone icy. "I've arranged for a caregiver to look after you. If you need anything, call Mrs. Gable." Victoria couldn't help but stare at the man before her. In that moment, she felt as if she was seeing him for the first time. She used to love him for his brilliance and his dazzling light, but now that they were together, she realized it was just a glow she had projected onto him out of her own love. Once that glow was stripped away, she found that letting him go was surprisingly easy. The same went for their son. He was nothing special either. She calmly averted her gaze. "You two go ahead." Sincere walked to the door, then seemed to remember something and added, "We'll only be gone for a few days. We'll be back soon to pick you up from the hospital." She didn't reply, just watched coldly as the father and son left the room without a backward glance. For years, they had grown accustomed to treating her this way. No matter how much they hurt her, they knew that if they turned around, she would be there waiting for them. But this time, they were wrong. Today was the last day of the divorce cool-off period. She would no longer be in that house, and she would never be foolish enough to wait for them to return. After they left, she forced her aching body to the ground floor to handle her own discharge paperwork. Then she picked up the luggage she had packed long ago and, without a second thought, took a taxi to Julian Prescott's residence. The car stopped in front of the Prescott villa. She took out her phone, changed Sincere's contact name to ex-husband and Julian's to husband. Opening the car door, she stood outside with her luggage and rang the doorbell. A moment later, the door opened to reveal a handsome, distinguished face. Behind him stood an adorable little girl, looking at her with eyes full of joy. She smiled and opened her arms to them. "I'm here, my husband, my daughter." Chapter 10, hearing Victoria address him that way, Julian Prescott froze for a second before quickly taking the luggage from her hands. "Welcome home, my wife." "Welcome home, Mommy." Little Luna, mimicking Julian, also spoke up. This brought joy to both adults. Due to her autism, Luna rarely spoke, and when she did, it was usually just one word at a time. She seldom initiated long sentences. Victoria hugged the small figure in her arms and couldn't help but kiss her cheek. Luna shyly covered her face, peeking at her through her fingers. "It seems Luna really likes you. She's rarely this happy. I feel I've failed her." Seeing the two of them interact, Julian's eyes grew misty. He felt that he hadn't been able to give Luna a mother's love all these years. Noticing his emotion, Victoria spoke softly. "From now on, I am Luna's mother. I will make up for all the maternal love she has missed." "Okay, we'll do it together," Julian nodded, looking at Victoria and silently vowing to treat her well. "You don't look so well. Are you feeling sick?" Julian asked gently, looking at Victoria. Victoria's heart fluttered. In all her years of marriage to Sincere, he had never once cared about her well-being. Even her own son showed no concern after learning about her car accident. Now, to suddenly have someone care for her, she felt the missing piece of her heart slowly being filled. "I'm fine, probably just didn't sleep well last night." "That won't do. Your health is important. How about this? We'll eat first, and then Luna and I will take you for a checkup. I won't be at ease otherwise." "Okay, whatever you say." When Victoria sat at the dining table, she was nearly overwhelmed by the variety of dishes. Seeing her surprised look, Julian explained, "I didn't know what you like to eat, so I just made a little bit of everything. See if it suits your taste." He then picked up a piece of pork rib and placed it in her bowl. "Did you make this?" "It's delicious." Victoria, wanting to show her appreciation, took a second piece herself. "I'm glad you like it. I'll cook for you every day from now on." Victoria nodded. Beside her, Luna, seeing how much she enjoyed the food, started piling more onto her plate. Victoria looked at the mountain of food in her bowl with a wry smile. But seeing the eager expressions of the father and daughter, she couldn't bring herself to refuse and ate everything in her bowl. She had to admit, it was the most enjoyable meal she'd had in days. Plus, Julian's cooking was genuinely good, mildly flavored, just how she liked it. After the meal, Victoria instinctively started clearing the plates, ready to wash the dishes. But Julian beat her to it. "Washing dishes is bad for your hands. I'll do it. The housekeeper is on vacation for a few days. Normally, she would handle this. I was worried you might feel uncomfortable with a housekeeper around when you first arrived, so I gave her a few days off in advance." Seeing that he had even considered this detail, she was truly moved by his thoughtfulness. "Is there anything I can help with?" "You can help me tie my apron." Julian pointed to the apron hanging nearby. Victoria took it and put it on him, but the front was wrinkled, so she carefully smoothed it out with her hands. The two of them were now standing incredibly close. Julian could even feel her breath. He couldn't help but blush and awkwardly turned his face away. "There." Victoria patted his shoulder after she was done. "You go play with Luna. I'll clean up here," Julian said quickly, and without waiting for her reply, started clearing the plates, pretending to be busy. Victoria didn't seem to notice and picked up Luna to watch TV in the living room. After Julian finished cleaning, he went straight to the living room, and the three of them watched cartoons together intently. This was an ordinary family moment that Victoria had never experienced before. The thought brought a mix of sorrow and happiness to her heart. But that father and son were now in her past. Whether it was Sincere or Finn, she no longer cared. Chapter 11, her phone suddenly vibrated. Victoria opened it and saw a new message on WhatsApp from Sincere. He said that during their trip, Ivy, unaware of Finn's egg allergy, had given him food containing eggs. Now they urgently needed to find the allergy medication, and he was asking where she had packed it in the luggage. Finn knew he was allergic to eggs. He had always been very careful about it. He hated getting rashes, so he was meticulous about his diet. Once, she had brought him a special pastry. He took one look at its color, concluded it must contain eggs, threw it away, and scolded her for being an unfit mother. When Sincere found out, he also berated her, saying she didn't deserve to be a mother. And now he was having an allergic reaction. He must have had a hard time refusing Ivy. After all, he had admitted he wanted her to be his mother. Victoria's heart was filled with a mix of emotions. She didn't reply. Instead, she decisively blocked his number on WhatsApp. A second later, her phone rang shrilly. Without even looking at the caller ID, she blocked that number as well. The phone finally fell silent. On the other side, Sincere stared at the message not delivered notification and the unanswered call. He was shaking with anger. Victoria had always replied to him instantly. This time, she hadn't just ignored his message. She had blocked his number and his WhatsApp. It was as if she was deliberately defying him. The more Sincere thought about it, the angrier he became. He slammed his phone onto the ground and it shattered into pieces. The loud noise caught Finn's attention. "Dad, did Mom still not answer? I feel really sick. Why don't we just go home now?" "No, she's probably just throwing a tantrum at us." There was a hint of anger in Sincere's voice. Looking at his son, who was already breaking out in a rash, he was actually very worried. "Okay, I'll make the arrangements. We'll head back soon. I'll have your mom make you that lotus seed soup you like." Ivy, who was just about to go out to take pictures, was surprised by their conversation. "Are we going back now?" "Yes, Finn isn't feeling well. He wants to go home. Didn't he already take his allergy medicine?" Ivy spoke before she could think, blurting out her thoughts. Finn's expression darkened at her words. If it were his mother, she would have been frantic with worry by now. Realizing she had said the wrong thing, Ivy quickly tried to backtrack. "Since Finn isn't well, let's go back now. We should have a doctor look at him." Sincere nodded, but Finn didn't respond. The journey home was noticeably less cheerful than the trip out. Finn, usually chattering away, sat by the window in silence. He remembered that he hadn't given his mother a birthday gift. He decided to choose one of the drawings he had made on this trip to give her. After all, no matter what he gave her, she was always overjoyed, especially a handmade drawing. She would surely treasure it, just like she always did. The moment the car stopped, he ran straight into the house. He called out, a rare initiative on his part. "Mom, we're back," but when he pushed the door open, the house was empty. A sense of unease crept into his heart, and he immediately ran upstairs. He checked all 3 floors, opening every room, even looking inside the closets, but he couldn't find her. Sincere, following close behind, also realized something was wrong. He went to his own room and saw that some of the photos on his desk, the ones with Victoria in them, were gone. The only ones left were photos of him and his son, and that one family portrait. He remembered how much Victoria loved that picture. She would carefully wipe it clean every morning, even though she was the only one smiling in it. Panic seized Sincere's heart. He hurriedly called for the nanny. "Where is Mrs. Hargrave?" Chapter 12. Mrs. Hargrave. "I haven't seen her for 2 days. She did come back once, on the day you all left for your trip. I saw her leave with a suitcase. I just assumed she was going to meet you all." Hearing that Victoria had left with a suitcase, Sincere went rigid, his voice tinged with panic. "Didn't you ask her where she was going?" "Well, ma'am's business. If she doesn't say, it's not our place as servants to ask." The nanny, seeing Sincere's expression, looked displeased and muttered under her breath. Now he's worried. I've never seen a lady of the house have to work alongside the staff. Was it just to save a little money? So stingy, the nanny's words stung him deeply. Sincere's panic grew, and his hands began to tremble uncontrollably. He instinctively reached for his phone to call her again, only to remember she had blocked him and his phone was shattered. Unwilling to give up, Sincere ran back to the room. The closet, the drawers, even her vanity table, everything related to Victoria was gone. But he had promised to pick her up from the hospital after the trip, and she hadn't objected at the time. Sincere felt a tightness in his chest, a feeling that nearly suffocated him. He couldn't believe it. The Victoria who loved him and Finn so much would never leave them. It was absolutely impossible. Perhaps she was just a little jealous of Ivy. She would come back once she thought it through. After all, Victoria couldn't live without him and Finn. Ivy, arriving late, was puzzled by the worried looks on the father and son's faces. She walked over to Finn. "What's wrong? Did you lose something? Tell Auntie Ivy and I'll help you look for it." Finn's face was grim. He said flatly, "My mom ran away from home." "What? How could that be? Victoria is acting like such a child, playing hard to get at her age." A flicker of glee flashed in Ivy's eyes. She looked at Finn and asked, "Finn, if your mom throws a tantrum and never comes back, would you let Auntie Ivy be your new mom?" Hearing this, Finn looked at Ivy in disbelief. "No, I only have one mom, and no one can replace her." With that, he shoved Ivy away and ran to his room. Ivy was left standing awkwardly, her gaze shifting to Sincere. "Sincere, what's gotten into Finn today? Maybe he's just tired from the car ride. Don't take it to heart." Sincere's reply was listless. "Why would I take it to heart with Finn?" Ivy said with a forced smile. But her hands, hidden in her sleeves, were clenched tightly. "If there's nothing else, you should head home." Sincere said this and went straight upstairs, ignoring Ivy on the sofa. She felt awkward sitting or standing. She grabbed her bag and left quickly. After Ivy was gone, Finn knocked on Sincere's door. Seeing Finn come in, Sincere quickly hid the glass of liquor behind him. "Why aren't you asleep yet? Is your allergy still bothering you? I'll take you to the hospital again tomorrow." He instinctively reached out to feel his son's forehead, checking for a fever. But instead, his hand met a tear-streaked face. Finn threw his arms around Sincere. "Dad, when is Mom coming back? I can't sleep without her reading me a story." Hearing this, Sincere's heart ached with a dull pain. "I promise I'll find her. Tonight, I'll read you a story, and you be a good boy and go to sleep, okay?" Finn nodded and listened quietly to the story. That night, neither father nor son slept well. Chapter 13, when Victoria woke up the next morning, she saw Luna sleeping peacefully in her arms. Looking around the somewhat unfamiliar room, it still felt a bit unreal. She patted her own face to wake herself up a little. She glanced at her phone and saw it was already 10 a.m. Feeling a little embarrassed, she quickly got up to wash. "Did you sleep well? Was I too loud and woke you up?" Julian asked immediately when he saw her coming downstairs. "No, I slept great. Have you already made breakfast?" "I didn't have anything on today, so I thought I'd make breakfast for you and Luna before we go to the hospital." "Are we still going to the hospital today? I feel like I'm pretty much better." "We have to go. I won't be at ease until you've had a proper checkup." Julian's words made the tips of Victoria's ears turn red. For a moment, she didn't know what to say. She just picked up a piece of toast from the table and started eating. "I mean, Luna and I will both be worried about you." "Okay, then we'll do as you say," Victoria agreed, deliberately avoiding his gaze. When they arrived at the hospital, Julian had Victoria wait with Luna while he went to queue up and register. The smell of disinfectant in the hospital was a bit pungent. Victoria hated the smell. It reminded her of the days when she was giving birth to Finn. Sincere had shown no anticipation for Finn's arrival, believing it was all her scheme to have his child. So, from the prenatal check-ups to the delivery, she had endured it all alone. No matter how much she cried out in pain, Sincere dismissed it as a ploy for attention. "Victoria, you're the one who insisted on having this child, so stop acting like you're dying. I have a lot of work at the office. If you need anything, just call my assistant. Childbirth is supposed to be painful. You're just being dramatic." Sincere's words were still vivid in her memory. They were like needles piercing her heart. She couldn't pull them out, nor could she discard them. At that time, she would touch her belly and think that the baby's arrival might improve their relationship. So she chose to silently endure his harshness. She never expected this outcome. Sensing her mood, Luna looked at her with innocent eyes and touched her face. "Mommy, don't cry." Looking at the sensible child, Victoria held her tighter. "Are you scared of getting a shot? Why are you crying?" "I have good news for you both. No one is getting a shot today," Julian, seeing the scene, teased them deliberately. Hearing she wouldn't get a shot, Luna immediately raised her fists in celebration. "Yay, no shots." Her cute little gesture made them both laugh. The small interlude eased the tension in Victoria's heart. When she entered the examination room again, she wasn't as nervous. It was Julian who was tense, handing the reports to the doctor and listening carefully to all the instructions. He even took photos of the prescriptions to remember the dosage for each medication. Watching him so focused, Victoria's heart warmed. She felt she was no longer so afraid of hospitals. Even the unpleasant smell of disinfectant seemed more tolerable now. After all the test results were out, Julian suddenly received a call from his company, asking him to return for an emergency meeting. He had wanted to take Victoria and Luna home first before going to the office. But Victoria knew he was in a hurry and insisted he go to his company first. Julian had to agree and left. Victoria held Luna and waited in the hospital lobby for the medication. Glancing to the side, she saw a little boy who looked a lot like Finn run past a corner up ahead. Victoria felt a momentary daze, but didn't think much of it. Even if it was him, she no longer cared. Suddenly, a figure rushed over and hugged her leg. "Mom, what are you doing here?" Chapter 14. Finn stared at Victoria, who was holding another child, his eyes filled with disbelief. Victoria looked down and realized she hadn't been mistaken. It was indeed Finn. "I wasn't feeling well, so I came to the hospital for a checkup." Victoria's voice was cold and distant, as if she were speaking to a casual acquaintance. Finn, who had been sensitive since he was young, immediately understood her tone. He was shocked. The mother who had always treasured him was now so cold to him. She hadn't even asked about the rash on his skin. "Mom, I'm having an allergic reaction. I feel really sick. I want the lotus seed soup you make." He abandoned his usual pride, his voice almost pleading. "Then remember to take your medicine." The electronic display announced that her prescription was ready. Victoria didn't spare him another glance. She stood up, holding Luna, and prepared to leave. Behind her, Finn could no longer hold back. Tears rolled down his cheeks in large drops. He grabbed Victoria's sleeve. "You're never coming home again, are you?" Seeing him cry, Luna in her arms got a little scared. Victoria quickly soothed her, gently patting her back. Looking at Finn's stubborn gaze, she remained expressionless and pulled his hand away. "Don't call me Mom anymore. I am not your mother." With that, she walked away. Finn watched her retreating back, crying so hard he could barely breathe. Ivy, who had brought him to the hospital, saw this and immediately snapped a photo, sending it to Sincere. In the picture, Victoria's expression was indifferent, while Finn cried beside her. The focal point was the little girl in Victoria's arms. Seeing the "sent successfully" notification on her screen, she couldn't help but feel a secret delight. She couldn't wait to see Sincere's reaction. "Victoria Rivers, let's see if Sincere will still want you when he finds out you cheated on him and have a bastard child this big." "Finn, why are you crying? Did you get hurt somewhere? Let Auntie see." Ivy crouched down, pretending to wipe away his tears, but Finn didn't react, still staring blankly at Victoria's retreating figure. When his snot dripped onto Ivy's hand, a flicker of disgust crossed her face. She immediately dropped the pretense. "Stop crying, Finn. Let's go home, okay? Your mom has a new child now, so let's not bother her." Finn was already heartbroken, and her words were like adding fuel to the fire. "Don't touch me. If it wasn't for going on that trip with you, my mom wouldn't have left." He slapped her hand away and ran toward the hospital exit. Ivy, nearly pushed over, had no intention of chasing him. She was secretly hoping things would escalate. She steadied herself and went to the restroom, washing her hands several times. Only then did she walk out of the main entrance. But seeing an incoming call from Sincere on her phone, she smiled with satisfaction. The moment she answered, Sincere's urgent voice came from the other end. "Where is Victoria? I'm on my way to the hospital now. I just saw her getting her prescription. She probably hasn't gone far. But Finn..." Ivy mentioned Finn with a hesitant tone, making Sincere even more anxious. What about Finn? I don't know what Victoria said to him, but when I got there, he was very upset, pushed me away, and ran off. Chapter 15, Wait for me, I'm almost there. Sincere hung up the phone, his heart in turmoil. He had initially felt a flicker of joy seeing Ivy's photo of Victoria. Just knowing her whereabouts brought him a strange sense of relief. But seeing the child in her arms ignited a new fire of rage, and learning that she had upset Finn so much that he ran away sent him into a panic. Ignoring the red lights, Sincere sped to the hospital. As soon as he got out of the car, he saw Ivy standing at the entrance, crying pitifully. "Where's Finn? Didn't he come to the hospital with you?" Sincere grabbed her arm, his voice filled with anger. "Sincere, I was getting Finn's medicine when he ran into Victoria. By the time I got there, I saw Victoria push Finn's hand away and leave. I tried to comfort Finn, but he just pushed me and ran. I've searched the entire hospital several times, but I can't find him. Finn is so young, how could Victoria be so cruel? What if he gets lost and something happens?" Ivy's voice trembled, laced with a sob, making it hard for Sincere to tell if she was telling the truth. He frowned slightly. "Stop crying, the hospital is a big place, he's probably still here, let's split up and look." "Okay," Ivy nodded, and they began to search. Sincere walked through the hospital several times, his mind a chaotic mix of anxiety and anger. He couldn't bear to think what would happen if something happened to Finn. At the same time, his heart filled with deep resentment toward Victoria. He silently vowed to find her and demand an explanation. On his fifth pass by the greenbelt, Sincere heard a faint cry. He crouched down and saw Finn hiding there, crying. Sincere looked at the small, curled-up figure, his heart feeling as if it were being seared in hot oil. He carefully lifted his son out. Finn turned and saw it was his father, and all his pent-up grief came pouring out. He clung to Sincere's neck and began to sob uncontrollably. Seeing his son in such a state, Sincere's own eyes turned red. "Don't be scared, Finn. Dad's here. Did you see your mom today?" Sincere struggled to control his emotions, trying to make his voice sound gentle. But the hands holding Finn were still trembling slightly. "I saw Mom, but she told me not to call her Mom anymore. She has a new baby now." At the mention of Victoria, Finn's mind replayed the scene of her comforting the child in her arms and her words forbidding him to call her Mom. The tears flowed even more freely. Finn's words confirmed Sincere's suspicions. He now believed what Ivy had told him was mostly true. Whose child was that? Had Victoria really decided to leave him and Finn for good? Is that why she chose to leave so suddenly? A series of questions formed in his mind, but there was no one to give him the answers. For the first time in his life, Sincere felt an overwhelming sense of panic. Steeling himself, he decided to comfort his son first. "Finn, be a good boy. Let's go home first, okay? But can you make Mom come home? I really miss her." Finn looked up, staring at him intently. "Okay, I promise I'll bring Mom home." Looking into Finn's eyes, Sincere couldn't bear to disappoint him. He carried Finn back to the parking lot. They ran into Ivy, who was walking over. She saw the father and son and reached out to take Finn from him. To her surprise, Finn turned his head away, rejecting her. Her outstretched hand hung awkwardly in the air, and she slowly lowered it. "Sincere, let me help you take care of Finn. I'm partly to blame for him getting lost." Sincere was about to refuse, but looking at Finn in his arms and admitting his own lack of experience in childcare, he agreed. On the way back to the Hargrave mansion, the car was silent, save for the sound of Finn's shallow breathing as he slept. "Mom! Mom, don't leave me." Chapter 16, Finn suddenly cried out in his sleep. Sincere, who was driving, glanced back and saw that he was still asleep, just mumbling in his dreams. His expression stiffened, a nameless ache spreading through his chest. He felt as if he was back on that rainy night, a 12-year-old boy begging his divorced mother to stay. But his mother had said nothing, only leaving him with a resolute back. Ivy, of course, heard Finn's cries as well. She deliberately remarked, "How could any mother be so heartless? Finn is her own flesh and blood." Sincere didn't speak. While waiting at a red light, he lit a cigarette. Realizing Finn was in the back seat, he quickly extinguished it. The silence continued all the way home. Sincere carried the sleeping Finn to his bedroom. Ivy offered to watch over him, and Sincere agreed, then went up to the third-floor balcony to smoke. He hadn't smoked in a long time, Ever since Victoria told him she was pregnant, he had quit completely. When he first learned of Finn's existence, he wasn't happy. He had no confidence in being a good father and didn't trust that Victoria could be a good mother. He saw Finn as an accident. Sincere believed the child was the result of Victoria's deliberate scheming, so he felt no anticipation for his arrival. Just like him as a child, an unwanted child, he didn't want Finn to repeat his mistakes, but facts proved that Victoria was a good mother while he was not a qualified father. Sincere thought with a bitter taste in his mouth. She used to love him so much. When did she stop caring? He searched his memory, recalling the birthday she spent alone, the trip he kept postponing, the amusement park visit he never made. Perhaps her heart had completely died the moment he told her, "You don't deserve to be a mother." But he was so close to giving her an answer, to finally letting go of Ivy and starting a normal marriage with her. Why did it have to turn out like this? His eyes were downcast, his tall frame looking incredibly fragile. The cigarette between his fingers began to die out. In his mind, he saw flashes of Victoria's unusual behavior recently. She no longer waited up for him at night. Even when he came home early, a rare occurrence, she showed no pleasure. She, who valued breakfast so much, hadn't made it for him in a long time. Even when he had a stomach ache, she was no longer anxious. She hadn't even picked Finn up from the hospital. Memories flooded his mind like a relentless tide. Sincere suddenly realized he had been sorely lacking in care for Victoria. The thought sent a wave of panic through him. As he was about to go downstairs, he saw Ivy emerge from Finn's room and step around the corner to make a phone call. He vaguely heard her mention Victoria. Sincere paused on the stairs. The distance was short, so even though Ivy deliberately lowered her voice, he could hear her clearly. "Don't worry, the Hargrave family is in chaos right now. Sincere's wife has run off. How could he possibly have the energy to investigate our project? And Victoria is definitely not coming back. That father and son used to revolve around me. It would be a wonder if she wasn't heartbroken. The other day, I got into a car accident with his son. I was worried Sincere would get angry, so I tricked the kid into saying Victoria was driving. You should have seen how fierce Sincere was. That kid. Oh, he cries for his mom all day, but he's just a kid. A new toy is enough to shut him up. I'll come find you once I'm done here. Darling, didn't you want that sports car? I'll buy it for you as soon as I've got the Hargraves wrapped around my finger." Ivy's voice was laced with a triumphant tone, as if the Hargrave family was already in her grasp. The more Sincere listened to her scheming, the angrier he became. He strode down the stairs. Hearing footsteps, Ivy turned around. She saw Sincere standing behind her with a dark expression, and she was so frightened she became incoherent. "Sincere, what are you doing here?" "This is my house. Why shouldn't I be here?" Sincere smiled, a rare sight these past few days, but in Ivy's eyes it was the smile of a demon. She instinctively took a few steps back. "Who were you just talking to?" Sincere's voice was bone-chillingly cold. My friend, of course," Ivy stammered, her voice barely a whisper. Wretch, Sincere could no longer contain himself. He raised his hand and slapped her hard across the face, sending her sprawling to the floor. "Ivy, I gave your family money and support, and this is how you repay me. By colluding with outsiders to harm my family. And that car accident, you were the one who coached Finn to lie, deliberately trying to drive a wedge between me and Victoria, weren't you?" At the mention of her family, Ivy, ignoring the pain on her face, immediately dropped to her knees and began to beg. "Sincere, I didn't mean to harm you, they manipulated me, I was just confused. Please believe me this once, I really do love you. Please, I'll do whatever you say from now on." In the narrow space, she had backed herself into a corner. Sincere hauled her up and pinned her against the wall. Ivy felt a sharp pain shoot through her body. The bones in her spine ached terribly. "Sincere, you let me explain," but Sincere gave her no chance to speak and turned to leave. "You think Victoria left because of me? It was you married her, but kept things ambiguous with me. Sincere Hargrave, you deserve this, you brought this all on yourself." Ivy laughed as she stared at him. Her makeup was smeared with tears, and a faint trickle of blood was at the corner of her mouth. She looked terrifying, but her words only fueled Sincere's rage. He spun around, his hand clamping around her neck, slowly tightening his grip. Ivy struggled desperately, but it was useless. Her face slowly turned pale until her body went completely limp. Only then did Sincere release his grip. Her body slumped to the floor. She coughed for a long time before she could finally breathe again. "You venomous snake, I'm pulling all investment from your family's project. And you'd better not show your face in front of me or Finn ever again. Otherwise, you know what I'm capable of." Chapter 17, the Prescott family's villa was in an excellent location. Though a bit far from the city center, it was situated at the junction between two cities. The residents here were all wealthy and influential, with a high standard of living, making it a prime spot for developers. Not far behind the Prescott villa, a large amusement park was under construction. The entire construction site was clearly visible from the second-floor balcony. Luna loved to stand on the balcony and watch. Victoria naturally noticed this, so every day after breakfast, she would take a book and sit quietly on the balcony. Sometimes, when Luna saw the workers moving materials or operating large machinery, she would show great interest and pull Victoria to watch with her. At these times, Victoria would use the opportunity to encourage Luna to speak. "Luna, what is that? Do you know?" Victoria pointed to the excavator across the way. "Long arm excavator? What about the other one?" She pointed to another similar machine. "Crawler excavator." Victoria was slightly surprised. She didn't expect Luna to even know the different types. Looking at Luna, so small and focused, her heart ached with tenderness. Since living with Luna, she had begun to learn about the psychology of autistic children, and the more she learned, the more her heart went out to her. Sometimes, looking at Luna's appearance, no different from other children, she hoped that one day Luna could live and study like any other child. "What are you thinking about?" Julian walked over and handed her a cup of coffee. "I was just looking at the amusement park over there." "Look, it seems to be open already." "Amusement park?" Julian followed her gaze. He immediately turned back to her and asked, "Want to go check it out?" "It just so happens that a friend of mine invested in that project." "A friend? Mr. Prescott is so generous. Does that mean we can use the VIP lane?" Victoria teased him deliberately. When she first met Julian, she had thought of him as the serious, unsmiling Mr. Prescott. But as they spent more time together, she discovered he was actually a very interesting person, knowledgeable, and he made her feel very secure. That sense of security was exactly what she needed. "Of course. My family must use the super VIP lane. What do you say, wife?" Victoria, who had intended to tease him, found herself blushing instead. She quickly changed the subject, saying she needed to change Luna's clothes and they could go in the afternoon. Julian watched her fumbling for words and couldn't help but smile. "Is there anything this driver needs to do?" Victoria pretended to think for a moment, resting her head on her hand. "Then you can go make some sandwiches that Luna and I like." "Understood. Beef for Luna and tuna for you." Julian remembered her preferences clearly, which gave her a strange, warm feeling. By the time the three of them arrived at the amusement park, it was already 2 in the afternoon, and it was quite crowded. Thanks to Julian's friend's arrangements, they went straight through the express lane. Julian, looking at the bustling crowd, took Luna from Victoria's arms. Then he naturally took her hand. Victoria was slightly taken aback, but didn't pull away. Sensing her acceptance, Julian held her hand even tighter. For the rest of an afternoon of fun, he never once let go. Victoria found it both amusing and endearing, but she had to admit the feeling was nice. When they got to the Ferris wheel, Luna was tired and fell asleep on Julian's shoulder. Victoria suggested they go home, but Julian could see she wasn't ready to leave. He immediately vetoed the idea. Julian told Victoria to wait a moment while he took Luna back to the car and came back. Before Victoria could protest, he pushed her toward a nearby ice cream shop and told her to sit and wait. "Wait for me, I'll be right back." Chapter 18. Julian's voice was warm and pleasant. For some reason, hearing those words made Victoria feel incredibly at ease. About 15 minutes later, Julian hurried back. "Have you been waiting long?" Without waiting for a reply, he took her hand and led her toward the Ferris wheel. As the Ferris wheel started to move, Victoria felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. She had always loved amusement parks, but never had the chance to go. After she had Finn, she had hoped to go, but he thought amusement parks were childish and refused to go with her. But Finn didn't know. She had seen photos of him at an amusement park, but he was with Ivy and Sincere. The three of them heads together, smiling sweetly, but Julian was different. He understood her frustrations and always thought from her perspective. Thinking of this, Victoria couldn't help but look at Julian. Julian sensed her gaze and looked down to meet her eyes. This time, neither of them looked away. They just quietly looked at each other. Julian's eyes were exceptionally beautiful. Staring into them, one could feel as if they were sinking into a tranquil lake. Julian, seeing her dazed look, couldn't resist pinching her cheek. Though it was an intimate gesture, neither of them felt awkward anymore. Victoria. He suddenly said her name, and she looked at him, puzzled. What is it? I seem to recall you once said that people who kiss at the top of a Ferris wheel will stay together forever. When did I say that? Of course, she remembered when she had said it, but in this atmosphere, she feigned ignorance. June 12th at 10:36 a.m., on the balcony at home. Julian, are you my personal memo pad? How do you remember everything I say? Victoria muttered to herself. But she had to admit, her heart was slowly opening up at that moment. She looked at the earnest Julian, unable to think of any reason to refuse him. Julian's eyes also reddened slightly. He reached out, pulled her into his arms, and cupped her face with his hands. At the very top of the Ferris wheel, they shared their first kiss. For some reason, after the romantic atmosphere on the Ferris wheel dissipated, they both became a bit self-conscious when they got off, especially Julian, whose ears were still bright red. I'm a little hungry. Want to go get something to eat? Victoria said deliberately. Okay, let's go now. Victoria took the initiative and took his hand, leading him toward a restaurant. This instantly relaxed the still nervous Julian. The two of them walked slowly together. Sincere stared at the photo on his phone screen, a picture of the two of them walking side by side. He was about to go mad with rage. Though it was just their backs, he could tell at a glance that the woman in the photo was Victoria. She was holding the man's hand, her head resting gently on his shoulder. Though he couldn't see her face clearly, the photo suggested they looked very well matched. Follow them, see where they go. I'm on my way. His heart was filled with jealousy. Sincere couldn't wait another second. He replied to the message and immediately threw on his clothes and rushed to the garage. Chapter 19. When Sincere arrived at the restaurant address his friend had sent, he didn't see Victoria. Recognizing him from the photo, he spotted Julian sitting by the window. Mr. Prescott, long time no see. Sincere walked straight to the table and sat down opposite Julian. Julian was a bit surprised, but he recovered quickly and began to pour him some water. Isn't this Mr. Hargrave? What brings you here? Are you having dinner here too? What else does one do in a restaurant, Mr. Prescott? Sincere took a sip of the water in front of him. You look a bit haggard, Mr. Hargrave. You seem to have less energy than at our last meeting. Oh, that's right, I forgot. That was a regional group executive meeting, a meeting Mr. Hargrave wasn't yet qualified to attend. Julian's taunt was sharp. Sincere's face gradually turned cold. Where is she? Who might Mr. Hargrave be referring to? I'm talking about Victoria Rivers, of course. Sincere's brow was tightly furrowed. Ah, so Mr. Hargrave is referring to my wife. I was planning to keep it low-key, but I didn't expect you to find out. In that case, I'll be sure to inform you when we have our wedding. You must do me the honor of attending. Julian said this with a smile, as if he genuinely wanted him at the wedding. Julian Prescott, let me make this clear. Victoria is my wife, my legally wedded wife. Sincere was already furious, and now hearing that they were getting married, he was beyond enraged. He shot up from his seat and grabbed Julian by the collar. Say that again. Julian remained unperturbed. He calmly repeated his words, deliberately emphasizing the word wife. Sincere felt the blood rush to his head. He raised his fist and threw a hard punch. Julian was about to retaliate, but out of the corner of his eye, he caught a glimpse of Victoria coming out of the restroom. He let himself fall to the ground without any resistance. When Victoria arrived, this was the scene she saw. Sincere was standing there perfectly fine, while Julian was on the floor, his face already showing a bruise. Sincere, have you not caused enough trouble? Victoria shoved Sincere aside and knelt to help Julian up. Pushed to the side, Sincere looked at her with utter disbelief. Victoria! He instinctively called her name, but Victoria didn't respond, instead carefully examining Julian's face. Does your head hurt? A little. The man who had just been arguing with Sincere was now acting weak and vulnerable. From an angle Victoria couldn't see, Julian winked at Sincere, his eyes full of triumph. This made Sincere want to lunge forward again. Seeing this, Victoria could no longer contain her anger. She stood up, walked over to Sincere, and slapped him hard across the face. Sincere, do you have to make things this ugly? We're finished. Please stop bothering me in the future. Victoria, you are my wife, not his. Sincere's face stung, but it was nothing compared to the pain in his heart. Haven't you received the divorce papers? We are already divorced. I don't want any property, and I'm giving you full custody of Finn. I hope you will stop harassing me. Otherwise, I will call the police. Victoria's words were like a short blade, stabbing deep into Sincere's heart. He was momentarily speechless, tears streaming down his face without warning. Victoria didn't even spare him a glance before taking Julian's hand and leaving the restaurant. Watching their retreating figures, he stood frozen in place. Suddenly, as if remembering something, Sincere immediately ran outside. Chapter 20, Victoria pulled Julian out of the amusement park and was about to drive him to the hospital. Julian let her lead him, saying nothing. He just kept saying his head hurt a little, and Victoria massaged his temples the entire way. She worried if he was cold and shouldn't be in the draft, and if he had injured any bones. Julian contentedly enjoyed her concern. Though his injury was nothing serious, seeing her so worried and upset for him filled his heart with a strange sense of happiness. To be honest, when Sincere had shown up, he wasn't entirely sure how she would react. After all, she had once loved him so much. But seeing her protect him, Julian was overjoyed. He was heartbroken for her, and that meant he held a place in her heart. Arriving at the hospital again, Victoria's fear of it had completely vanished. She settled Julian down and went to register and wait in line by herself. Only after the doctor had gone over all the test results and repeatedly confirmed that he was fine did Victoria's heart finally relax. Julian didn't know how worried she had been when she saw him injured. She had been terrified something serious had happened. It was in that moment that she understood her heart was steadily moving toward Julian. He was very important to her. Does it still hurt? Victoria looked at the bruise on his face, her eyes full of concern. Yes, it hurts a lot. Julian took her hand and rested his head on her shoulder. I'm sorry. It's because of me that Sincere treated you like this. Victoria's voice was a choked whisper, tinged with tears. Seeing her cry, Julian panicked, fumbling to wipe her tears away. Victoria, it doesn't hurt at all. I was just pretending earlier. I wanted to see who you would side with, so I didn't fight back. I have never blamed you. Everything I do for you, I do willingly. I was jealous of your marriage to Sincere, jealous of the kindness you showed him. I know about your past, so I can understand your pain. And I swear I will never let you cry again. Julian's voice began to tremble. When Victoria didn't speak, he started to tear up as well. Victoria, hit me, I was wrong. Julian buried his head in the crook of her neck, not daring to say more. Listening to his sincere confession, Victoria couldn't bring herself to be angry about his deception. She reached out and pulled him into a tight hug. Julian, please don't lie to me again, okay? I was so worried about you. Okay, I promise, but you have to promise me one thing too. What? Julian pulled a ring out of his pocket and slipped it onto Victoria's finger. Staring at the large diamond ring, Victoria was still processing what was happening. Victoria, I am so grateful to have you by my side. Maybe when I first met you, I wanted to marry you because Luna liked you. But now, I truly know my own heart. I like you very much. I hope you can give me a chance to enter your heart. Let's start by dating, can we? Julian's heartfelt words brought instant tears to Victoria's eyes. Her heart slowly opened up at that moment. She looked at the earnest Julian, unable to think of any reason to refuse him. Yes, the two of them embraced, feeling each other's heartbeats. Chapter 21, Sincere man, she's just one woman. With your status, you can have anyone you want. Yeah, why hang yourself up on one tree? This isn't like the old you. We're all getting a little worried. Sincere's friends had all witnessed his decline over the past few days and wanted to help him vent his frustrations. They planned a night out for drinks, hoping to talk some sense into him. But Sincere, sitting beside them, seemed to hear nothing. He just poured himself one drink after another. He ignored everyone who tried to talk to him or toast him. His gaze remained fixed on the glass in his hand, his thoughts a mystery. I'm serious, Sincere. What kind of magic does this Victoria have to turn you into this? Sincere finished the last drop in his glass and said dully, she's just her. She's different from everyone else. Different? How is she different? Didn't she just use her pregnancy to climb the social ladder? If you like that type, There are plenty of gold diggers out there, and they're all better looking than her. This comment drew laughter from the entire private room, and people raised their glasses to the speaker. Sincere also laughed. He stood up, poured a glass of wine, and toasted the man. But after clinking glasses instead of drinking, he poured the entire contents over the man's head. "Sincere, what are you doing?" The man shot to his feet, demanding an explanation. "What do you think I'm doing?" Sincere then grabbed his collar and landed a heavy punch. The man, not one to back down, immediately fought back. The two of them were instantly grappling with each other. Their friends rushed to pull them apart. The friend who had been hit for no reason couldn't help but shout, "Your own wife runs off, and you take it out on us. Playing the devoted man now, are we, Mr. Hargrave?" This was like pouring fuel on the fire for Sincere. He grabbed a wine bottle and smashed it over the man's head. The glass shattered, and crimson blood was a shocking sight. But Sincere still wasn't satisfied. He lifted his foot and kicked him a few more times. The others rushed to hold him back, but he was too strong. The friends holding him back groaned in pain, but didn't dare let go. "Sincere, calm down, we're all friends here. He didn't mean it, you're the bigger man, don't hold it against him." Hearing these words, Sincere finally stopped. He glanced at the man on the floor, his voice chillingly cold. "Get him to a hospital." The friends then scrambled to take the injured man to the hospital. Only two remained to stay with Sincere. Sincere's hand was also cut by the shards of glass, but he seemed to feel no pain. No one dared to reason with him at this point, so they just let him sit there. He dismissed the remaining men, lit a cigarette, and fell silent again. Sincere touched the thin document in his pocket, and tears he could no longer control streamed down his face. After running home that day, he had found the divorce papers lying on his study desk. He just hadn't seen them, so she had wanted to divorce him all along. Sincere looked at the date on the agreement and suddenly remembered that morning. Victoria had asked him to sign, but he had deliberately made things difficult for her, unwilling to deal with it. Looking at Victoria's signature, he felt nothing but endless regret. He still remembered the moment he and Finn saw the agreement. The words "divorce agreement" seared his heart. He suddenly felt unsteady, slumping to the floor, barely able to believe what he was seeing. Sincere kept flipping through the document, trying to find any evidence of forgery. But when he sent the papers to a lawyer he knew, the reply was consistent. The agreement was legally valid. Victoria had not asked for a single cent of property, neither prenuptial nor postnuptial. She had even given up custody of Finn. Her only demand was a swift divorce. "Dad, what is this? Is it something Mom wrote?" Seeing Sincere's actions and expression, Finn vaguely guessed it was about his mother. His tear-stained face turned pale, his voice choking. "Does Mom really not want us anymore?" Sincere didn't answer him. Memories swirled in his mind. Sincere's grip on the divorce papers tightened. In a daze, he saw a somewhat familiar figure and immediately chased after it. He followed her into a small alley in front of a bar. He reached out to grab the person, but when he saw their face clearly, he sobered up and apologized. Sincere felt an overwhelming urge to see Victoria in any capacity. Just to see her would be enough. Chapter 22, without realizing it, he had ended up downstairs from the Prescott villa. He had known her address for a while but had never dared to come. A dense drizzle fell, slicking his face. And so, he waited all night. Until the next morning, he saw Victoria and Julian coming downstairs together. The sight of them talking and laughing together pierced his heart. The scene reminded him of the old days. Victoria used to be like that, waking up every morning to make breakfast for him and Finn. Sincere had a sensitive stomach. Anything cold or spicy would cause a dull ache. When Victoria found out, she started waking up very early every day to cook him congee, even if he sometimes only took a single bite. She had persisted for years. Even when he didn't come home, she would have it delivered to his office. But now, he had ruined everything. When Victoria walked into the garden, she was startled by Sincere's appearance. He had lost a lot of weight in a short time. His clothes were stained with faint traces of blood, and he looked incredibly weak. The dark circles under his eyes were prominent. He was a completely different person from the Sincere she knew. She was slightly shocked. Sincere noticed her shock and quickly said, "I'm fine." The moment the words left his mouth, he regretted speaking. His eyes filled with remorse. What are you doing here? Victoria asked, looking at his gaunt face. Victoria, I just wanted to ask if you could give me another chance. A chance? Victoria let out a soft laugh at the word, then she spoke again. Sincere, ever since we got married, you've never been satisfied with me. Because you thought I was after the Hargrave family's fortune, and that's why I used our child to climb the ladder, right? Victoria's tone was flat, as if asking an irrelevant question. But to Sincere, it was like 1,000 arrows piercing his heart. Victoria, let me explain. I did think Finn was the result of a scheme, but later, I realized I love you and I love Finn. Can we please live a good life together from now on? I promise I'll listen to everything you say. Neither I nor Finn can live without you. I'm begging you, come back to me. Sincere's tone was incredibly humble, a side of him Victoria had never seen before. Love me. Sincere, you don't even deserve to say the word. Love. I carried Finn for 10 months and gave birth to him. You were neglectful, you didn't even know how to handle his allergies. You raised Finn to be selfish and a liar. Is that what you call love? I was married to you for so many years, willingly giving my all for you, toiling for you. And you. You brought another woman into our home right in front of me. You were not good to me, you were not a responsible father to Finn, and you were not faithful in our relationship. Why should I give you a chance? Victoria looked at the man before her body trembling slightly. After finally saying all the words she had held back for so many years, she felt a sense of relief. Victoria, seeing she was about to leave, Sincere instinctively took a step toward her. Sincere, I truly did love you. I thought that after having Finn, our relationship might get better. But clearly, that wasn't the case. Let's not drag this out any longer. Let's just let each other go. Her words stopped Sincere in his tracks. Sincere looked at Victoria, feeling like he couldn't breathe. He had never imagined she felt so wronged. His heart was now filled with nothing but endless regret. Chapter 23, Stepping out of the city hall, Victoria stared at the red marriage certificate in her hand, momentarily dazed. She was really married? She had once thought that after her marriage to Sincere ended, she would never marry again. But then she met Julian. What's wrong? Not happy on your wedding day, Mrs. Prescott? Julian pulled her into his arms and gave her a light kiss. I am very happy, really, Victoria looked at Julian, her eyes turning slightly red. I'm glad to hear it. I've taken a long vacation from work, and you've been cooped up at home for a while. Let's go on a trip abroad. I've already arranged everything. A trip? The word felt foreign to Victoria. Before she was married, she had loved to travel. But after getting married, she never had the time. Only in the days she spent here had she started to feel relaxed. Now, Julian had noticed her mood and arranged everything. Her heart was filled with warmth. That's right. And I've arranged for a nanny to look after Luna. She's in an early education program now, so it's time for us to have some time to ourselves. Julian was a man of action. The very next day, they were seated in the business class cabin of the earliest flight. Victoria watched the scenery recede outside the window, her heart filled with anticipation for the trip. As it turned out, her anticipation was not misplaced. From the moment they boarded the plane to their arrival at the hotel, Julian had a clear and detailed plan for everything. This made Victoria very happy. She was never one for planning. Going out with someone who handled everything was the best for her. Their destination included a small island. Julian knew Victoria liked fishing, so he rented a full set of fishing gear. The two of them settled down to fish quietly. Julian, what is your dream? Victoria gazed at the boundless ocean and suddenly asked, Do you mean my old dream or my current one? Is there a difference? Victoria asked, confused. Of course. My old dream was to manage the Prescott Group well. My current dream is to be with you forever. What? The wind is too loud. I can't hear you. Victoria deliberately said this, suppressing a laugh. Julian took her seriously and repeated himself. All right then, I'll reluctantly help you achieve this dream. Victoria turned her head and stared at him earnestly. Julian couldn't help but kiss her. Okay, but our bet still stands. You haven't caught a single fish and I've caught 3. You lose, so you have to cook for me. Victoria said it was a piece of cake. She immediately declared she would go back and make him a delicious fish soup. But once in the kitchen, she burned the plump sea fish to a crisp, and smoke filled the room. Her confident expression turned to embarrassment, and Victoria began to rack her brain for excuses. I'm really not used to these foreign pots, and the spatula is no good either. And this sea fish is oddly shaped, making it hard to prepare. Besides, I'm used to making lighter, home-style dishes. This is my first time pan-frying fish, so it's only natural that I messed up. Julian stood by, trying hard not to laugh, and fully validated her reasoning. It's okay, I love home-style food, and so does Luna. This fish looks hard to cook. It's not your fault it didn't turn out well, it's the fish's fault. Julian did his best to comfort Victoria. Seeing the frustration in her eyes, he quickly changed the subject. But if you don't know how to cook fish, why did you suddenly want to make me fish soup? His question caught Victoria off guard. She stammered, unable to come up with an answer. Finally, in a fit of pique, she wiped the black soot from her hands onto his clean white shirt. You have the nerve to ask me? I heard you love fish soup, so I wanted to give it a try. If I'd known you wouldn't appreciate it, I wouldn't have bothered. Julian pulled out a tissue to wipe her hands while gently coaxing her. Anything my wife makes, I'll love it even if it's burnt. Should we have some more fish sent over? I'll help you watch the heat. I'm sure we'll succeed today. Julian's words instantly boosted Victoria's confidence. She immediately rolled up her sleeves, determined to try again. Finally, after several hours of effort and 3 failed fish, Victoria successfully made a creamy white fish soup. She felt a great sense of accomplishment. Julian was also very happy. He immediately took a photo to commemorate the moment and posted his first ever social media update. The first bowl of fish soup my wife ever made. Within minutes, the post had over 99 likes and comments. Newlyweds are the best. Mr. Prescott is already showing off. Mrs. Prescott seems like a great cook. I want to come over for a meal. Victoria made this. Since when does she know how to make soup? Chapter 24, Sincere saw the post on a friend's phone. He looked at the corner of the photo, where Julian's hand with a wedding ring was visible, and at the other intimate photos of the two of them on the feed. The desolation in his heart reached its peak. His hand holding the phone trembled slightly. That ring should have been his. That bowl of fish soup was supposed to have been made for him. But now, it was all gone. He had nothing, only an empty, cold house. Finn asked him the same question every day. When was Mom coming back? He really missed her. Even his classmates at school would ask where his mother was. Finn didn't know how to answer, so he would just ask him. But Sincere couldn't answer that question either. He could only placate him with the same empty promises day after day. Over time, Finn became very quiet. He stopped wanting to talk to people and refused to interact with other children. He even became somewhat distant with Sincere. Sincere was at a loss. He tried taking him to amusement parks and buying him toys. But Finn remained silent. His own heart ached for Victoria. Where did it all go wrong? It was Victoria who had fallen in love with him first. He, Sincere Hargrave, was the one who should have had all of this. Sincere couldn't figure it out, so he continued to drown his sorrows in alcohol. Only when he was drunk to the point of oblivion would his suppressed emotions be released. He couldn't stop himself from calling Victoria again, hearing the cold, electronic tone on the other end, and thinking the call had connected. He began to talk to himself. Victoria, I was wrong before. I shouldn't have ignored you time and time again. I'm sorry. Finn misses you every day. He keeps asking when you're coming back. I know you still hate me, but I've realized I really can't live without you. Could you divorce Julian and come back to me? I promise I'll be devoted to you from now on, he mumbled, pouring out all the unspoken feelings in his heart. But the other end remained silent. When he sobered up, Sincere looked at the call log, at the call that had never gone through. A sour feeling churned in his stomach. He had secretly investigated Julian's background and learned about his character from many friends. Julian was indeed a good man and treated Victoria well, but there was still a sliver of unwillingness in his heart. He often wondered, if time could be turned back, he would definitely cherish Victoria. But there was no turning back time in this world. He sat in a daze all night, then decided to resign from his position at the Hargrave Group. His father was furious but helpless. He even threatened to cut him off from the Hargrave family if he didn't manage the company. Sincere understood the threat, but he still resigned. He spent his days at home, drinking, going nowhere. He sent Finn to live with his grandfather, feeling he couldn't take good care of him. For a long time, Sincere dreamed of Victoria. He dreamed that he and Victoria were walking down the aisle. The priest asked her if she was willing to marry him. Victoria said no, turned, and ran into Julian's arms. The scene shifted, and Sincere was now a guest. He sat in the pews and watched the priest ask the question again. This time, Victoria didn't refuse. She said, "I do," without hesitation. The two of them kissed on the stage, and everyone cheered and celebrated. Only Sincere wanted to stop them. He desperately pushed through the crowd, trying to get to Victoria, but he found nothing. The phantom touch woke him with a start. Sincere looked at the bare ring finger on his hand. He clearly understood that Victoria no longer belonged to him. Chapter 25. This was Victoria's first New Year at the Prescott home, and Julian took it very seriously. He had invited both sets of parents to come over early. Perhaps, due to some unique connection, Luna was very fond of Mr. and Mrs. Rivers and would even initiate conversations with them. This was a pleasant surprise for Julian, who knew that Luna's progress was due to Victoria's patient guidance. When it came to Luna, Victoria always had endless patience. Mrs. Rivers, watching Victoria play with Luna, asked when the two of them planned to have a baby of their own. Julian immediately stated that the decision to have a baby depended on Victoria's health and should naturally be her decision to make. Hearing his words, Mrs. Rivers's impression of Julian improved even more. At least she knew he was genuinely considering her daughter's well-being. She had been completely against Victoria's second marriage when she first heard the news. It was only after getting to know Julian that she felt at ease about their marriage. As for the question, Victoria had considered it but was still hesitant. Sensing her hesitation, Julian called her aside. He spoke to her gently, as if coaxing a child. "Can I ask you a few questions?" Victoria was a bit confused but nodded. "Do you want to have a baby?" "Yes," Victoria answered without thinking. "Are you worried about Luna? Worried that having a new baby might be bad for her?" Julian's words hit the nail on the head. She couldn't help but be a little surprised. Although Julian understood her well, they had never seriously discussed this topic. Because even though Luna wasn't her biological daughter, in Victoria's eyes, she was no different. So she worried that having a new baby might affect Luna. Seeing Victoria's shocked expression, Julian, for once, didn't tease her but made a solemn promise. "This is my oversight. I haven't actively communicated with you about this. I completely respect your decision because it's your body, and no one can make that choice for you. I also promise that even if we have a baby, I will treat him and Luna exactly the same. I will never neglect Luna. Also, today is New Year's. You're not allowed to cry." Julian made a fake gesture of wiping away her tears, which made Victoria playfully pretend to hit him. His meticulous care filled her with gratitude. During the New Year's Eve dinner, Mr. Rivers mentioned Sincere, and the atmosphere at the table grew slightly somber. Everyone carefully watched Victoria's expression. Hearing the familiar name, Victoria's heart stirred. In the past year, she had been busy taking care of Luna, and, with Julian's encouragement, had started studying about children with autism. Sometimes when she talked with Julian, she felt that her previous marriage was like a movie. It had appeared in the trajectory of her life, but had ended imperfectly. She thought she didn't regret the person she had once loved because she had always been faithful in her feelings. So the one who should have regrets was not her, it was Sincere. And as for Sincere, she had long since let him go. She had originally thought he would continue to live his old life and perhaps find happiness in the future. She never expected this, that he would give up the power he had once coveted most. But none of that had anything to do with her anymore. Sensing the awkward atmosphere at the table, Victoria quickly suggested they all take a photo together. Julian immediately brought out a Polaroid camera and took several shots. But after just one look, Victoria frowned. "Why is this so blurry? Didn't I teach you last time? How come you still don't know how?" "Victoria, can't you be a little more patient with Julian?" "It's okay, Mom, don't blame Victoria. It's my poor technique." "I'll take a few more." Victoria looked at the people she loved around her, her heart filled with happiness. As for the past, it was all smoke and clouds to her. She believed that life always offered new beginnings. It was true then, and it was true now. The end.